The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Tribe. This is Judymay Murphy. First of all, just want to give a shout out to a few people. By the way, people are asking how many people are in the tribe. We have over just shy of 200 people that gather live every Sunday. And then we have more people who, I don't know exactly how many, who listen to the recording afterwards. Who have signed up and let us know that either because of their time zone or work and family commitments that they can't be with us live, but they're still very much part of the tribe. A shout out to a Polish tribe member who is still waiting to give birth to her first baby, and also to a beautiful Canadian man who's with us every week, who is recovering from surgery and doing very well, I hear. So we're sending loads of love out to you. Okay, today we are going to be talking about, and this sounds really dramatic, right? We're going to be talking about reconfiguring the wound. Reconfiguring the wound. And all of us have a way in which we were wounded as a child. Something that really didn't work for us. There was something that was missing, or something that there was too much of that wasn't a good thing. So for you, you know what that is. Perhaps it was that you grew up in a household where there was domestic violence, where there was shouting and maybe even physical violence. Perhaps you grew up in a very unsafe situation where you were being sexually abused. Perhaps for you, it was just that your parents were very busy and didn't have time to spend with you properly. Or maybe they had that time, but they didn't really see how gorgeous you were, that there was some kind of filter going on with them. Or maybe it was the culture that you grew up in, or perhaps that there was just too many kids, or whatever it was. Maybe you were ill as a child. We all have something that made it that we are overcompensating in our everyday life. That every single day we are triggered into places that don't feel good to us, or there are things that we are not doing simply because we still are carrying that wound. So, what is it that we can do? Well, first of all, we've got to recognize what it is. It's interesting that when we talk about being wounded in a psychological sense, um, and it is a good way to talk about it because it makes us take care of ourselves. So, we throw a lot of caring and understanding at the situation when we see it as a hurt or as a bruise. But the part of using that imagery that doesn't really work is that when we talk about healing a wound, we see it as something that is wrong. We see it as something that shouldn't be there. We've got a big gash on our leg. Well, obviously we know what a leg is supposed to look like, and therefore the wound is something that shouldn't be there. But I'd like for us to think of it in a slightly different way, and that is for us to think of it as a rightness, something that you really, really needed to do back then, that really has become overplayed. So seeing your wound not as something that is wrong and has to be kind of wished or meditated away, instead, let's start to see it as an overplayed strength. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Wow, this is pretty heavy stuff for Sunday, right? It's simple. Well, I'll talk you through it. So first up, let's suppose that as a child, you had a parent who was alcoholic or a workaholic or angry or all about them. And you decided, because you were such a loving, good child, that you were going to be the person that would make everything easier. You were going to be the one that was going to look after everybody. You were going to be no trouble whatsoever. Now, this is a really, really good and loving thing for a little kid to do. That they decide that, okay, this family is dysfunctional. The way I'm going to make it more functional is I'm going to have this overplayed strength. I'm going to become too good. I'm going to become so good that I don't even voice what I need and what I want. Or I'm going to be the peacemaker. There's so much friction. There's just so much agitation that I'm going to be the person that is very playful, or even, who gets into trouble, who distracts from the other problems. So just identify for a moment, what was it that you learned to do? What was your strength? What was the thing that you overplayed as a child? Was it that you became really, really silent and timid and you didn't speak up? Was it that you became really brash and forceful because you had to make something happen? You had to bust out in your community. So what was it for you? What was it that you decided you needed to be that was a part of you, but it became an overplayed part of you? Because yes, you were loving and you were conciliatory and you were playful and you were lazy and you were hardworking and we're all everything. We're all a big mix. But you unconsciously chose a little mix of those things. You chose two or three traits and one major trait, and you were going to be that. Maybe you decided that you were going to be brilliant and a peacemaker. So the way that you have been doing life is, working very hard. Maybe you did brilliantly academically. Maybe you're great at making money. And you also, don't speak up your truth. You don't say what it is that you need. You don't get angry when you're angry. You stuff it all down and make yourself ill. Maybe for you, the mix was something like that you decided that you were going to be just very, very sociable and very chatty, and you'd kind of like almost be territorial in how much you would talk, and that you did it that way. Or that you were going to be confused, because every time you were confused, someone would jump in to rescue you, and you were missing rescue. You weren't getting enough attention, so you made that your way. So really, that's what a wound is it's an overplayed strength. It's like you've become too good. You became too good at that. And as you started to overplay that trait, naturally, the things that were opposite started to be underplayed. You can't be both timid and outgoing in the exact same moment. You can switch. You can switch quite rapidly, but you can't do them both at the same time. You can't be confused and clear at the same time. You can't be a peacemaker and a troublemaker at the same time. So what did you do? You started to suppress one. You started to create trouble in your head as you were making peace outside. Or the way that you made peace inside was to create trouble outside. What was it that you did? What was it that you did? So reconfiguring the wound is kind of like a re-engineering. So rather than just being purely caring and understanding, what we're going to do is think about how we can take this to a new place. How is it that we can do things differently? Well, the first thing that we have to do is we got to recognize what that is. And the way that we can recognize it is what triggers us? What is the belief around it? Before we go into that behavior, we're always triggered by something. Something happens in our environment. And we're not just talking about when you were a kid. It happens today. It might have happened to you already today. Even if you've just woken up, it might have already happened to you. And this was really brought home to me during the week because one of the reasons that I became very knowledgeable and very, very loving and really good at paying attention to other people was that I felt that I wasn't being paid attention to, that my reality didn't matter, that when I did something good, I wasn't praised, that I was kind of like an invisible child. And it really was brought home to me this week when I was staying in this gorgeous place that I stay in London, this lovely kind of hotel situation. It's actually a private club, but it kind of has a hotel aspect to it. And I brought a mug with me, okay? Because the little cups in the room aren't big enough. I love a big cup of Senka tea in the morning. So I brought my favorite mug with me, as I'd done loads of different times, and put it by the bed when I'd finished with it. And normally what happens is housekeeping rinse it out for me, or else I rinse it out myself, and it's always in the same place. But what happened during the week was I went to reach for it one morning and it was gone. I thought, oh, housekeeping must have brought it down to the kitchen accidentally. So I phoned down to reception. I said, hey, listen, I said, my favorite mug was right there by the bed. I think housekeeping accidentally brought it into the kitchen. Andrew, would you mind chasing it down for me, please? He says, oh, of course, absolutely. And then I didn't hear from him for an hour. So I get back to him and I said, listen, I'm just getting a little bit concerned because it was my favorite mug. So if you can just get word back to me, that would be great. I understand that you might not be able to know until that new shift comes back on. And then I'm downstairs and I go into reception and everyone just scuttles away. Like all the staff members who know me really well, they kind of put their heads down and they run. And Andrew says, oh, Judymay, I'm so sorry. what happened was there's a new girl in housekeeping. She didn't know to leave your crockery there. She just brought it down with the rest of the stuff that she was bringing down from other rooms. And she tripped and fell going into the kitchen and everything broke, including your mug. We are so sorry. And I felt instantly I was triggered into this place of, well, no one really cares. Yeah. And you can see that there's no need for that. When you're standing outside of it, you can see that there's absolutely no need for me to have gone into that place. Instead, I could have got into a place that would have made a lot more sense. Into a place of, yeah, you know what? They accidentally broke my mug. Mugs get broken. It wasn't intentional. So things like that. It's so easy for us to get triggered and for us to be in a situation we don't need to be in. So for me, I was feeling badly and there was absolutely no reason for me to be feeling badly. And the interesting thing then was I kind of caught it and I said, listen, don't worry about it. It's fine. These things happen. But I went off and for about 20 minutes, I felt awful. I really was like, wow, why am I feeling so awful? It's just a mug. And then I realized, no, it's not just a mug. It's a sign, it's a trigger, it's a place I was brought back to of no one cares. You know, if it was my sister's mug, everyone would be like falling over themselves to replace it. It wouldn't have happened. If it was, like, you know, I just traced it. I just noticed. So I'd like you to do that when you get triggered and you kind of know that your reaction is too much, that you're too afraid, you're too upset, you're too angry, you're too for the situation. Just work out, well, where does that come from? What is the key? What is the root of that? Why is it that that's happening to me? And then, of course, you know, I had the chat with myself and I just realized that, okay, that was an old pattern. What if the opposite was true? Because that's what we always need to do. Whenever we get triggered into something, whenever we have an old belief and we start with an old behavior, because the behavior that I started to want to do was I started to want to make every staff member feel okay. And then I thought, hold on, it's me that's feeling bad. You know, let me allow them to make me feel okay. Let me not run the old pattern of I feel bad, therefore let me look after everybody else. If I put enough good feeling out there, some of it might bounce back in my direction. No, let me be a little bit annoyed about my mug. Let me feel sad about it. Yeah, it was a really cool mug, right? But then the interesting thing was this, that as soon as I did that, as soon as I didn't go into a caretaking place, didn't have kind of like false okayness about it, allowed myself to feel really badly about it, and then it just let go. It just was very, very interesting that it didn't hook me, and I was able to stay strong and able to stay in mode. And I know it's just a mug, but we all have that version. It might be that, you know, our spouse looks at a member of the opposite sex in a way that we think is a little bit too much admiration. Or it might be that someone didn't pick up after themselves and they're going to do it later. They're just tired right now. But that triggers us because for us, we've set it up that, you know, there was chaos in our childhood. And so whenever we see a pair of socks on the ground, we think we're being zapped back to that place of chaos and it doesn't feel good to us. Whatever it is for you, we need to identify that first. Then we need to go into a place of opposite. So anytime you get triggered back into that, the way that we reconfigure the wound, we don't have to heal it. We don't have to talk to it, say, you know, we can do that, a little bit of that. It's okay. You are safe. You're not in chaos. It's okay. People do care. We can do a little bit of that. But what's even more helpful is, what if the opposite were true? What if people loved me? What if people really, really cared about me? And so I just said that, you know, I'm going to act as if. I'm going to just carry this idea with me, because it's always just an idea, that people really, really care about what happened to me. They care that I was upset. Without any evidence, what if I just acted as if? And you know what was absolutely fascinating? I then was able to interact with the staff and interact with everybody in the club in a way that day that was just my best self. I wasn't caretaking of them. I wasn't asking them about their problems. I was just being me and feeling good. And then the interesting thing was this, that I was going out that night and as I was going out, someone on reception said, oh, Judymay, there's just a little something here for you. And someone had gone out and they'd all had a discussion and they must have gone and found the pieces of the broken mug so they could see what size it was, so they could see the colors that were in it. And they had bought me an almost exact replica of the mug that had been broken, but it was even nicer. And then over the next few days, so many of them, like people who were like working way back in the office, they were saying, "Oh my God, we heard about your mug. So sorry that that happened." And they really did care. And then, of course, I was able to completely step into that place of it's only a mug, right? But it's interesting how these things are sent in order for us to be given a chance to reconfigure things. You know, we're not broken. We don't need healing as much as we just need caring. And the way that we need to care is A, be good to ourselves, but we need to not stop with that. We need to then re-engineer it with our new information, with our new way of being in the world, because we're not that kid anymore. And yet we're often still living as if we are that kid. Okay? So this is what we need to do is we need to A, recognize it. Say to ourselves, you know what, this is the challenge for this week. It's not even a challenge, it's a really easy, fun thing to do. Just notice when you get triggered and say, hey, I'm triggered. Just simply saying that to yourself allows a little bit of space, a little bit of like the things just feel so personal, but it allows just a little bit of space where we can say, you know what, this isn't about me. You know what, I don't need to go back into that old place. I don't need to be so subjective and so hurt by this. I can make a different choice. I can make a different choice about what it means. Also, I'm better able to cope with things. So in the past, if someone used to yell in the home, I had to become very placatory. I had to become very much like, oh, you know, can I get you a beer from the fridge, or can I do this for you? You had to become that because that was the only skill you had. These days, you can yell back if you want to, or you're even more skilled. You can turn around and say, you know what, that shouting thing doesn't work for me. But you don't need to be like, you don't need to make yourself into something that you're not. You don't need to make yourself everyone's nursemaid, or you don't need to make yourself the class clown if you don't feel like it. A lot of the people that I coach are actually stand-up comedians and comedy actors. And for them, that's always the big lesson. You don't need to make the room laugh. You don't need to make the room feel better. The room is allowed to feel bad. They're allowed to feel their feelings, and you're allowed to feel your feelings. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to notice that you're triggered. Then you're going to notice what's that place that you go to. What is the place that you tend to do? And we all have like 2 or 3 kind of coping mechanisms. And ask yourself, well, what might be a better thing? And the way that we get to do that better behavior is by acting as if the opposite of the old belief were true. So the old belief is, I'm not safe. So in that moment where we're triggered, say, you know what? I need to remember that I'm completely safe. The old belief was, it's chaos unless I get on top of it. You know what? A little bit of messy is absolutely the way the world works. And I can just relax into things being a little bit messy right now, knowing that life works itself out even when I'm not on top of everything all the time. If for you it was, oh, people don't consider me. How about the fact that, people do consider me? People love me as much as they can while doing their job of loving themselves. Or I'm not considered. I consider myself completely. In this moment, I'm going to absolutely put myself first. Yeah. Maybe for you, it's that, it's a kind of a poverty fear. I have a really good friend whose father died when he was 16. And he went into this place of believing that he couldn't leave. So he stays in the same place. He kind of has the same routine every day. He doesn't travel. In fact, in the last year, he started to travel, and it really has opened things up for him because he's gotten rid of this belief that, if I go, something bad will happen. And he's also letting go of this belief that he has to save every single penny. I mean, and for him, it was literally every single penny. He would go and join people in a bar, and he wouldn't buy himself a drink. He wouldn't allow himself to have a drink bought for him. He would literally stand there without a drink, maybe tap water. And this was a guy who's on good money, right? Because his wound was a wealth wound. And the belief that it came from was, the belief of financially it's all going to fall apart and then we're all going to die, like dad did, So we can start to dig a little bit deeper to find out what are those beliefs, and what is because remember, a wound is just an overcompensation. So what is the original belief, and what is the overcompensation that we did that was complete genius at the time? Oh, I'm going to be completely silent, or I'm going to talk all the time, or I'm going to be really really, really good academically. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to be really vigilant for what everyone else is feeling. I'm going to take care of everyone's needs. I'm going to be a superstar. I'm going to, whatever it was an overcompensation. That's what a wound is. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to believe the complete opposite so that then we can act in very opposite ways and we can start to enjoy different aspects of ourself today and all this week. We can start to enjoy the aspect of ourself that is more carefree if we've been really kind of on the ball, or the side of ourselves that is more organized if we've been a little bit too carefree, the side of ourselves that is more about us if we've been too much about other people, the side of ourselves that allows us to feel and communicate our anger if we've been a little bit too peacemaker about things and stuffing it all down, putting it behind a screen. And this is very freeing. This allows us to really, really feel who we are and to have, a whole set of coping mechanisms. And that makes us feel safer and it gives us better results. We start to achieve more when we're not just, if you think about it, right? If you are painting a beautiful picture and you just keep using, the medium brush and you keep painting everything in blue and black. Well, that kind of worked for Picasso for a while, but even Picasso moved from his blue period into his pink period, into his, this and that. And that's what we're going to do is we're going to become geniuses at how we show up in life. And that means embracing parts of us. Moving outside of our comfort zone isn't necessarily about bungee jumping and making a few extra sales calls. It's about moving into places of ourselves that we're not yet comfortable being. Maybe you're not yet comfortable being really sexy. Maybe you're not yet comfortable being really hilarious and funny. Maybe you're not yet comfortable being very creative. Maybe you're not yet comfortable being very outspoken. Maybe you're not yet comfortable being very good at looking after your needs first. Whatever it is for you, you get to do that. You get to become really good at that. I've just seen a little message from our Polish tribe member, and she says, "We're here, my son and I." So welcome. Wow, the youngest tribe member is less than a week old, I'm sure, and is very, very welcome, as is everybody. Very, very welcome to Sunday Tribe. And on that point, I'd like to invite you to become part of the Sunday Tribe team. There is no commercial aspect to this whatsoever. It really is pure service. We're all, great at making money in lots of different ways during the week, and this is my Sunday service. And we have some people who've stepped up and asked how can they help to spread the word. Some people have already been, adding it onto their Facebook and doing things. And what I'd like to invite you to do is, if you're good at something, please let me know what you're good at. Is it a way that you can get this into a local hospital or a local prison? Or maybe it's just something as simple as you can tell your friends, or maybe you'd like to be involved in a more active way. Please let me know. We're everybody's an equal member of the tribe. If you only ever just want to join in and sit and be with us for 25 minutes every Sunday, that is awesome. That is more than enough. That is so beautiful. You're changing the world just by showing up and being part of your very, very valued member. So it's not about asserting worth in any way, but it is about if you have some extra time and you have certain skills and you believe that you'll be able to help us to bring Sunday Tribe to more people, if you believe that will be helpful, please just let me know. So on a very last note, let's do that. Let's reconfigure our wounds. Let's first of all congratulate ourselves for having that overcompensation, for overbuilding that strength, because that's what allowed us to survive and do so well up until now. So let's really, really thank the wound. Let's thank that overcompensation. Let's say, you know what, it's brilliant. And I'm sorry that I've asked you to bear so much of the load for so long. I'm going to now be stepping into different areas that I'm going to become comfortable with. I'm going to be believing different things. I'm going to be showing up with different traits, leading, different parts of my personality leading, so that you don't have to do so much. And let's be very gentle and good to ourselves. Let's get creative around this. And until we all gather this time next week, big love to all of you. Take care. Bye.